It's roughly 10 million years ago. You're not even human yet. You're a small, jumpy primate scrambling through a forest, competing with birds, monkeys, and pretty much every other hungry thing on the ground for the same pile of fruit. And at some point, you make a decision that should, by every rational standard, be a mistake. You eat the rotten one. Not the fresh fig hanging perfectly on the branch, the one that's already fallen, gone soft, and started to smell faintly like a college dorm room. And somehow, that turns out to be one of the best decisions your entire lineage ever made. Here's the thing nobody tells you about fruit. Left alone long enough, it doesn't just rot, it ferments. Wild yeast, floating around in basically every forest on Earth, lands on anything sugary and gets to work almost instantly, turning that sugar into alcohol. This isn't rare, this is just what fruit becomes if nothing eats it fast enough. Your ancestors weren't discovering some exotic delicacy. They were living in a world that was, quite literally, constantly brewing, whether anyone wanted it to or not. So why lean into the smelly stuff instead of avoiding it like every sensible woodland creature should? Because alcohol has a smell, a strong one, stronger than fresh fruit, and it travels. In a forest where every other animal is also trying to find the ripest fruit before you do, that sharp, fermented smell was basically a beacon shouting, "Food is here, and it's easier to find in the dark." The primates who happened to enjoy that smell instead of turning their nose up at it found more calories, more reliably, in a world where finding calories at all was a full-time job with 0 vacation days. This isn't a theory pulled out of nowhere, by the way. Biologist Robert Dudley actually built an entire hypothesis around this called, and I'm not making this up, the Drunken monkey hypothesis. His argument is that our attraction to alcohol didn't start with humans getting bored one day and inventing beer. It started millions of years earlier, baked into primate biology by the simple math of calories versus competition. The animals that liked the smell ate more. The animals that ate more survived better. That's it. That's the whole origin story of your Friday night. So somewhere back there, evolution basically selected for ancestors who enjoyed the smell of a light buzz. That's still in you, right now, whether you've ever thought about it or not. That's not a personality flaw, and it's definitely not a character judgment. That's several million years of forest strategy, still quietly running in the background every time something fermented smells oddly appealing at a party you weren't planning to enjoy. Fast forward a very long time, past the point where you can even really call this thing a monkey anymore. Now you're a human, and something has changed. You're not just eating fruit that happened to ferment on its own whenever it happened to fall. You're leaving it out on purpose. Picture a hollowed-out log, or one of the earliest clay containers anyone ever made, filled with crushed fruit or honey and water, tucked somewhere safe, checked on every few days like a slightly suspicious science experiment. Nobody in that group understands yeast. Nobody understands sugar chemistry or fermentation or anything you'd find in a textbook. What they understand is that if you wait long enough, the liquid starts doing something interesting, and whatever that something is, it's worth the wait. That's the moment this stops being an accident and starts being a technique. And once humans have a technique for something, you already know what happens next, because it happens every single time. We start doing it together. A container gets passed around a fire. People get a little looser than usual. Someone tells a story they normally wouldn't tell. Someone laughs a little too hard at something that wasn't actually that funny. In a small, tightly knit group where cooperation could genuinely be the difference between surviving the next hard winter or not, that loosening wasn't just a nice feeling. It was social glue. Groups that drank together, in a very real, measurable sense, trusted each other more the next morning than groups that didn't. Which brings us to the receipts. Actual, physical, dig-it-out-of-the-ground receipts, because archaeology loves nothing more than proving a theory right with something covered in dirt. Researchers working in China found pottery jars with residue still clinging stubbornly to the inside, chemically confirmed to be a fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit. This stuff is roughly 9,000 years old. Whoever made it wasn't guessing anymore. They had something close to an actual recipe, consistent enough to repeat, good enough that people kept making it the exact same way for who knows how many generations before that particular jar happened to get buried and wait 9 millennia for someone to. Similar residues have turned up in pottery from the Middle East, dating back thousands of years, and in fermented drinks made from grapes, grains, and even mare's milk in different corners of the ancient world. Different continents, different ingredients, completely unconnected populations, all independently arriving at the same basic idea. Let it sit. Wait. Drink it with people you trust. So when you crack open a drink tonight, at dinner, at a party, after a genuinely terrible day at work, you are not doing some strange modern ritual invented by a beer company with a marketing budget. You're standing at the end of a very long, very consistent line. A hungry primate following a smell through the trees, millions of years before it had a name for what it was smelling. A group getting looser around a fire because it made them trust each other more when the sun came up. A jar in China, made carefully enough, the same way, again and again, to survive 9,000 years in the ground and end up in a research paper. The smell that pulls at you before you've even consciously decided anything? That's not random, and it's definitely not weakness. That's an old forest instinct that never got the memo that the forest is gone. So, would you have been one of the primates chasing the fermented fruit, or one of the sensible ones who left it alone and stuck to the fresh stuff? Let me know in the comments. Until then, see you!